Well, hello there, my fellow space blobs, figuring out this life here in this world together. I am feeling so pleased and excited and magical that I get to sit down and talk about one of my truly favorite signs to work with ever, which is Pisces. Today is going to be all about getting ourselves grounded in this energy, exploring Pisces season 2023, getting ourselves really acquainted with and in tune with this sign, because it is going to be a big player over the next couple of years. This Pisces season, we have our friend Saturn moving into the sign of Pisces for the next couple of years. And I'm going to do a whole other video on Saturn and Pisces. Never fear. We are going to be getting much more deep into that particular topic very, very soon. That is coming out any moment. But today, what I want us to do is just get really acquainted with this sign, get acquainted with this season. We're going to go through the basics of Pisces, how to work with it. We're going to go over some of the stereotypes and then peel back those layers and look at the deeper meanings of this sign. Then I want to get into this year. So what are some of the themes for this particular Pisces season? What are the transits that we can look forward to exploring here during this powerful season? And then I'll pull some cards for us. So we have a lot to cover today. Pisces 101. This is the mutable water sign. Mutable signs are very flexible. The whole idea here being that, we're moving between seasons, we're moving between, forms. I love working with mutable energy. I have quite a bit of mutable energy myself, but I love working with mutable energy. It allows us to get out of this idea of this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, and start to explore ourselves. And Pisces is one of the best signs to do that exploration of ourselves and to discover that we're not just this self, this little isolated self that's walking around, but that we're connected to everything, which is part of the reason it's so important to get connected with this sign. It's, of course, the last sign of the zodiac. It's the number 12. And so it is rounding out a whole journey that we do, starting with Aries. You can kind of follow this journey. And we do this journey many times in life where we have this experience of being an individual alone, experiencing that I am. We learn how to connect with others, how to grieve, how to transform, do all of this stuff. And by the time we get to Piscean energy, this is about kind of seeing the whole and understanding our entire journey and being okay with not needing to hold on to this little identity that we might have built for ourselves, but opening up to something bigger. This sign is ruled by Neptune, and Neptune gets an interesting rap. I think a lot of times you'll hear both Pisces and Neptune talked about as kind of wishy-washy, foggy, confusing. But I think that's mostly if you haven't tapped into this energy and worked with it and decided to be curious about it and you just let it have your way with you, because there's also themes of the subconscious and the hidden within working with Pisces energy. I mean, Pisces is really interesting. The 12th house in general is tied to the parts of our society that we hide away. So themes that have to do with incarceration and mental health, places where, we kind of put those things away, right? So we don't see them when we're walking down the street and we're running our errands and we're in the mundane world. And I think that that's another reason Pisces is so important. It gives us the opportunity to really look at that and explore those themes and think about why it is that we, kind of separate and alienate certain parts of ourselves and our culture and our experience, and to explore that and to find compassion. And that's another thing that Pisces is all about. It's deeply tied to this concept of compassion and how we create compassion, how we experience compassion in a life and beyond. This is kind of considered the most spiritual sign in a way, because it's about leaving behind this idea of this little body and this little self and dissolving into the greater whole, which of course that can't be the only thing. That can get very relative and confusing. And that's part of why you'll sometimes hear when we talk about Pisces or Neptune that people are confused and in fantasies. And we do need, anchor points and things that can help us orient in our lives. But the power of kind of leaning into that can be so potent. I think one of the final last things I want to say about like the general Pisces, it's a sign that is very much about how we do things first, from inside, from the hidden, from the energetic, and then out. And that principle is very strong whenever you're working with Pisces energy. You can't really start by like forcing everything to move around outside of ourselves and then hope it lines up. When we're working with Pisces energy, we always have to start with sitting still for a moment, connecting in before we move. And that comes up time and again. And finally, I think Pisces is really interesting because it's a question of what nourishes us and what poisons us in our minds, in our fantasies, in our spiritual journeys as well. I think it's that double-edged sword of like, how do we use these tools and where do we really nourish ourselves and where do we start to police ourselves and sabotage ourselves. So it's got a lot of layers, but you can kind of think about Pisces as where we start to understand the greater process. And from that point of expanded wisdom that we have when we meditate or when we have a deep dream. And because of that, this is why I love it so much. It's just so beautiful. So let's talk about some of the stereotypes that we see if we're kind of looking, you're dating a Pisces maybe, and you want to know what to deal with Pisces. These are some of the stereotypes you'll often see right off the bat, that they're very emotional, all emotions all the time, crying in the bathtub kind of stuff. That Pisces wants to get entangled with somebody and feel that there's no division between you and me. And Pisces are also stereotyped for disappearing on people overnight. Suddenly they're gone, because Pisces is very tied to symbols like the fish, the mermaid, this idea of the ocean, the great expanse of the universe, and the mystery of things that come and go. What are some of the other stereotypes? Obsessed with water. Also, I think probably one of the classic stereotypes is this kind of foggy inability to make decisions and be clear. And also kind of this idea of escapism and avoidance of the real world. And we'll see memes about this all the time. And as usual, I love having some fun with some stereotypes and laughing about it. So let's get into what Pisces season 2023 specifically is all about. So I'm going to give us a few themes here and then we'll get into the transits. So this is going to be a season, as usual, of discernment. And we're going to be starting to work with discernment as a theme with Saturn moving into Pisces. And the discernment here is what dreams are really coming from our hearts, from our home address, from a place of truth, and what dreams are just us repeating something that we feel like we're supposed to be doing. This is something we'll start to explore here as we open up Pisces season. The next theme is going to be noticing when our thoughts are medicine and when they are poison. This is a classic. I think this group of people, we're always working on this and exploring this and seeing what's coming of this. But, this is a really wonderful time. Our fantasies, our dreams can be both medicine and beautiful and can be poison, right? We can sometimes have fantasies that are really crippling and stressful. I just last night was like, I could not sleep for whatever reason. And some of those terrifying scenarios were just running around in my brain. And that's an example of like the fantastical parts of ourselves bringing us some poison, right? And so it's like, this is just a really beautiful season to explore, what fantasies, what storytelling, what creativity, what cosmology are medicine to us, and strengthening that and really questioning the more painful thoughts. I think another beautiful thing about Pisces energy in this season in general, it's going to be being bold enough to make beauty in the world. I think so often we feel unworthy of taking a stand in the world and doing something beautiful because it feels frivolous or pointless or not grounded enough. But this season's always a reminder to come back to the value of making beauty in the world. Exploring vulnerability is another theme. Talking about our mental health, connecting deeper with our partners, our loved ones, our communities, having deeper conversations and communions around the parts of ourselves that sometimes we feel like we're not allowed to share. And finally, as always, I think with any Pisces season, this is really a season of completion of cycles and focusing on the seeds that want to be tended to next. So we're going to be kind of parsing through what that means. It makes me think of a lot of fairy tales will have a character sort out the grain from the soot or the ashes. You'll see that in Cinderella. You'll see that in Baba Yaga. This moment where we really look at what is ash and has passed away and what seeds we're taking with us. We're going to be doing that this Pisces season in kind of big ways. So let's talk about the transits and how this all fits together. The sun enters Pisces on February 18th, and then right away we head into a new moon in Pisces from February 19th into the 20th. It's a 1 degree new moon, and it doesn't have a lot of complex conversations going on. And once again, we'll be doing a full moon chat, or new moon chat. I will put that out. Have no worries, but there doesn't have a lot of aspects to it. None, actually. It's a 1 degree new moon. It's very quiet. It's about compassionate listening and looking at the ways that we identify ourselves, all the trappings of success and identity. And is it okay to just be as we are? It's a really quiet moment at the beginning of this Pisces season, I think, to just, sometimes these moons, it's like, let's journal about who we're going to become and our intentions and all of that. And this moon is like, let's strip that all back and come back to just a really quiet place of compassion for a moment. Then we head right into Venus moves out of Pisces on the 19th and into Aries. Venus in Aries has a totally different vibe than all this Piscean energy we've been talking about. It is a time of boldness, of daring, of flirtatiousness. Venus in Aries will just go over and ask for the number or try something out. It's very fun. It's very playful. And it just kind of adds to this idea of us playing into some new arcs in our lives, some new rhythms, some new themes coming into our lives. Shortly thereafter, on March 1st, we have Venus and Jupiter conjunct in Aries, which is really fun. And I think for me, that conjunction just lasts for a moment. Venus moves pretty quickly. It's this invitation to move toward what feels really true and beautiful in our lives. It's an invitation, as we pick through the ash and the seed, as we discern, there are going to be some seeds that really are just so bright and that really connect with us. And I think March 1st is just going to be this beautiful moment of recognition there. On March 2nd, we have Mercury entering Pisces. So for me, Mercury in Pisces is very much as above, so below kind of logic. How do we use our thoughts to soothe, to create fantasies and daydreams that are really good for us, that are really nourishing, that will really hold us? And, on the flip side, when do we use our thoughts to scare ourselves, to stress ourselves out? This is going to be a transit to just work on amplifying thoughts as a tool, as something that will help us, and to allow, the use of fantasy and storytelling to be a really powerful way to move through the rest of this year. March 7th is kind of a big day in 2023 in general because we have the full moon in Virgo, and it is trining Uranus. It is looking at how we're moving forward, letting go of the old habits that don't work anymore, opening up to a new cycle. And that full moon is happening at the same time that we have Saturn entering Pisces, which is a big topic because Saturn has been kind of working with Aquarius since March 2020. And so we are just ending a 3-year cycle as we move through this Pisces season. And like I said, I will be covering Saturn and Pisces in depth in its own video because it's just too big of a topic to cover here. But Saturn and Pisces is going to last from March 7th this year until May 24th, 2025. And this is really, like I mentioned, this is a discernment of our dreams. I'll just say this as a keynote. The there's this whole idea, and Martha Beck champions this, of there being a home address for our desires, our wishes, our dreams. And those dreams come to us when we're really asking from our home address. But if we are, dreaming and envisioning things that we just don't really want, they just won't come. And Saturn comes in here to help us home in on the dreams that are coming from our home address. And we'll get into that. I'm very excited about Saturn in Pisces. And don't let anybody who's like, oh, Saturn hates being in Pisces, blah, 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 just ignore that. Just ignore them. Close down the article, close down the video. I'm sorry, but just, it's a waste of time. So we're going to get into that. I'm going to do that justice, but just know that this Pisces season really is about closing one energy cycle and opening up another. And we're going to be really feeling that. And then we're getting close to the end of Pisces season here as we start to move through this. So March 16th, we have Venus in Taurus. So Venus moves all the way through Aries during this season, then heads into Taurus. And this is about creating beauty. And the focus is making beautiful things in the world. March 18th, we have Mercury entering Aries, clarity of focus, goals coming into view. And I really love Mercury moving into Aries after we have this shift of Saturn moving into Pisces. I think it just adds this like emphasis of, that clarity of where we are heading coming into full view. And then Pisces season ends as the sun enters Aries on March 20th. So it is a powerful month and there's a lot going on there. And in some ways I feel like we'll enter in one headspace and leave in another, which will be really interesting. It's giving me goosebumps even talking about it. I'm feeling a little like emotional about it, thinking about this Pisces season. I don't know why. I'm just emotional right now, y'all. It's been an emotional beginning to the year. But yeah, I think there's going to be kind of a walking through a threshold feeling about this Pisces season from one end to the other. And I mean, that's another thing, Pisces, the tarot card for Pisces is the moon. But I also feel like Pisces is so tied to kind of that high priestess energy of standing in a doorway and being initiated into something. And I really feel this is a Pisces season that's going to have a lot of that. So I'm starting to shuffle here. I'm going to pull, there's already a card wanting to come out, and it is Two of Wands. There's that doorway again. For me, Two of Wands is such an initiation card. It's that doorway of the two wands there. We'll get into it. But I'm going to pull 4 cards, kind of one for each week approximately in the season of Pisces. So we can kind of get a feel for the whole path forward. Page of Pentacles. Very promising energy here. A lot of future vision actually going on. And you can kind of think, this Pisces season is building on what we just did in Aquarius season with that visionary thinking. And with some of the expansion that we were doing there. Queen of Cups. Oh yeah. Here's where we get into Saturn and Pisces and some of the intuitive wisdom. And where we put our focus. And Ten of Pentacles. Okay. Wow. Quite the lineup. There's a lot of this feeling of like tapping into. And I don't really like this idea of destiny where it's all predetermined, because I personally have the philosophy we're in conversation with our lives at all times, all of us. It's all one big conversation, and we're always moving and changing and growing. But sometimes, there's these pieces that just click in, right? So let's start. Two of Wands. This is definitely a visionary card, as we enter with that new moon and Venus moving into Aries. This is definitely kind of standing in that threshold, standing on that shoreline and envisioning some things. And the story with Two of Wands I always love in the tarot deck. It's 2 and 3 are really close together here in the Wands suit, because 2 is the merchant has sent off those wishes, those dreams, those ships into the world without knowing where they are. And the 3 of Wands is when those ships return. So this part of the journey, this Two of Wands part of the journey, is about standing at that shoreline with some faith, with some deep compassion, with some deep curiosity about who we are becoming without holding too tight to our shape. And there just being kind of this sense of entering into some new dreams, some new connections, some new pathways. I think just acknowledging that all on its own is super powerful. Along with that, then we're followed up here as we move deeper into Pisces season into Page of Pentacles, which is really interesting, because we're not working with a lot of earth energy right now. But Page of Pentacles is, and maybe, this is that Saturn influence as well. I love this energy. For me, this is so much about some gift, some help coming in to our physical world. So yes, Pisces is about our soul, our spirit, our energy, all the kind of non-physical things that are so important, to check in with and work with and be in tune with and spend time on. But what I love about Page of Pentacles showing up here is this is about how important it is, though, to still have help and resources in the physical world, and that, circumstances are a real thing and we work with them, and they can be really frustrating and confusing, and it's not about ignoring that. So Page of Pentacles is about getting the support we need, getting the green light we need, getting the opening that we need at that time. There's a practical element of support here, which I really, really love. And hint is that Saturn and Pisces is going to give us more of that. It's actually a really great combo of energies. Then we're following up here with some intuitive wisdom. So we're getting a little deeper here. Queen of Cups is so interesting to me because, yes, she is very meditative. She's sitting here looking at her kind of goblet situation, meditating on it. There's a trick with Queen of Cups, though. She's very focused and dedicated to listening to her intuition. However, she can sometimes get a little too hyper-focused on the one thing. So this is a reminder as well, when you're meditating, when you maybe are doing some spiritual exploring for this Pisces season, to loosen your field of vision a little bit sometimes. Just let yourself be open. I know we often will have dreams and really specific ambitions and ideas of who we are becoming that we would really like to see move into the world. So we want to focus on those and bring them to life and script them. And that's great. But it's also really nice sometimes to just let yourself be curious about who you are. Not know exactly how it's going to work out, and just keep your field of vision a little bit expanded. So Queen of Cups comes with that reminder when you're doing your spiritual work, when you're doing your journaling, all of that, to leave a little pocket of not knowing within it. And then finally, we have Ten of Pentacles. That's some big energy right there. Ten of Pentacles is no joke. This is about a long range thing. And what I keep thinking about is we're beginning a new cycle. And it's not ending, because when we get into Aries season, we also have Pluto moving into Aquarius, which Pluto moves very slow. That's a long time in the making. So we're really shifting to new energy cycles. And with that is going to be coming new visions of the long term, new visions of what we are building toward. And what I say with Ten of Pentacles, it's important to hold this lightly. Don't get too obsessed with this idea of leaving a legacy and building an empire. We hear this stuff all the time in reality TV. I feel like that's what everybody says on Married at First Sight. They're like, I want to have a king or queen and I want to build an empire and leave a legacy. It's just calm down. Calm down. I think it's more important when you're working with Ten of Pentacles to just tap into, it's kind of like there are these archetypes, these ideas, these visions inside of you that want to be brought into the physical world. So tapping into the feeling of connecting, there's a thread between you and that thing. How does that feel? How are you connecting with it? And kind of being the lifeline between the world of ideas and the world of creation. That's what Ten of Pentacles is really about. It's also a reminder that some of those visions, they're going to take a little time. We experience time here. We experience individual life here. We experience all of that here. And part of that is going to be that any project we want to do, any identity we want to take on, any skill we want to learn is going to involve time. It's going to involve the experience of building on it. It's going to involve the experience of moving through it. So it's also a reminder here that we are going to be clicking in with some of those. And then we're going to relax into knowing. that time is part of that experience. So I hope that this was helpful. If you have not joined my Patreon, what are you doing? No, I'm just kidding. No pressure at all. But I really do offer so much extra support over there. I offer worksheets and chats and live Zoom calls in the upper tier. And it really is just a fantastic place if you want to just feel really held and supported as you're going through something. I'm really proud of what I've created over there and what I'm doing to offer to others. So I would really love to see you there. It really means so much to me. It is something that has meant a lot to me over the last few years as I've done it. You can also find me on Instagram, and I have the dream of being on there a lot more. So I'd love to see you there. And there's only one true Sarah Verba, by the way. And then you can also, of course, subscribe here. It helps me so much. Truly, the algorithm world is a beast. And it's definitely been kicking my butt over the last year as I've been shifting formats and doing all of that. So you commenting and liking and subscribing honestly makes such a huge difference in my life. So I really, really appreciate it. I appreciate everything. I appreciate every single one of you, every single comment, even if I can't write back a long reply, when you share what you've moved through and how you move through it, it means so much to me. So please, always feel free to share. I love it. I love it so much. I love this community so much. I love doing this work so much. I loved sitting here chatting with you today. So have a beautiful Pisces season. We will be back to talk about the Pisces new moon, Saturn in Pisces, the Virgo full moon. We got a lot to cover in the coming weeks. So come back around here. Make sure to subscribe if you want to know when I'm releasing each of these conversations. And I didn't even mention Pluto in Aquarius. Are you kidding? So I'm looking forward to all of that. I will see you all very, very soon. Have a beautiful Pisces season, my fellow space blobs, and talk to you soon.